All right, everyone, welcome back to the What If history podcast, as well as that normally history, but past, present, and future, and today is more present and future. Mm-hmm. We've been kind of following a theme. Oh, I'm Brock Grills.
Zach Hartwicker.
Yeah, we've been following a theme of kind of political this season, and we've kind of discussed about maybe next season kind of doing the same thing, but sticking more to a different theme. So we're just going to go hard on the politics theme. And I mean, there's world events going on right now that we absolutely just could not ignore. And that's the possibility of World War III breaking out and Russian aggression. And talk about the various what ifs that are arising daily.
Yeah.
Just as a tidbit of where we're at right now, and I'll let Zach chime in here as well on some of these. As of yesterday, Putin his Russian forces are now in Ukraine, the western part of Ukraine. Yep. I'm not sure if they've taken the city of Kiev yet, but there is a fight going on.
There's definitely battles going on there. They haven't taken the city yet, but they have paratroopers and helicopters in there. So,
and then outside of Ukraine, Putin is basically threatening any countries that are not in NATO right now. Basically, yesterday he threatened Finland and Sweden that if they join NATO, the same kind of vague field threat of nuclear war. Well, you know what? That's where we got to draw the fucking line, in my opinion. Like, fine, Ukraine, whatever. There's the classic Hitler argument of like they're part of us, which is, I mean, they've been their own country now for 30 years doing their own thing, so I think that's kind of bunk. But and he's using the excuse of NATO aggression, but NATO's never been aggressive.
Yeah. There's no real rhyme or reason for that kind of excuse. Like at this point here.
Well, and Finland and Sweden yesterday basically told them to fuck off. Yeah. Like, and then they went and they're actually getting closer. They're in deals right now and talks with NATO, and I think they're going to join, which is good. And if Putin decides that's it, that's where we have to draw the line. And if he's like, well, I'm going to use the nuclear option, then we need to just annihilate Russia. Yeah. Like that's like what's going to happen, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of people who stand against Putin. But I have a theory that Putin's gotten bad medical news, that he has some sort of cancer or something, and he's just unhinged now. That's my theory, that he doesn't have very long to live, and so he's just trying to, and he's not like super, super old, but like, who knows? That's what I kind of think this is all coming out of. Because the question is, why now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not just now either, though, right? Like he's been kind of had this in motion for the last 5 or 6 years at least, right? Like with those two Russian breakaway states would not have done that if they knew they wouldn't have Russian backing, right? Like and that's the only reason they haven't collapsed completely.
Do you mean like Crimea? You mean or
yeah, like in Luhansk, and I can't remember the other one's name. It starts with the D. Those two breakaway republics or whatever you want to call them, or clearly did so via Russian backing. So, and that was a long time ago now. Like, I mean, Ukraine, that's the problem too, is Ukraine hasn't just been like a peaceful country for the last 5-6 years. Like they've been in a war zone as well, right? Like at least in the east. But at the same time, that means they're a little more battle hardened, right? Like they've tasted war already. So I hear they're putting up a pretty good fight, but I mean, I think realistically, I don't think it's a winnable fight.
No, it's probably not. But I think I'm thinking that the Ukrainians are going to get more than they bargained for.
Oh, for sure.
So I think in part Putin was thinking that this was going to be, was it 2010 when they just walked in? They were thinking it was going to be that again, and then the Ukrainian people realized, no, this is it. They walk in this time, they're not walking out.
Yeah.
So we got to give them everything we got if they want to take this city. So I mean, again, it's always harder for an occupying force to take someone's home. One, because they're entrenched, and two, because they're fighting for their home, right? As opposed to the aggressor.
And I mean, realistically, in this day and age, I don't know if it's all that viable to even occupy a country. You know what I mean? Like they couldn't take care of Afghanistan. Now, granted, that was 30 years ago, but No, you mean the United States just got
Afghanistan's a different country, though.
It is. There's a lot of mountainous areas in Afghanistan.
And they know the caves. The locals know the caves, and they can retreat to the caves.
But at the same time, Ukraine's a big country, man. It's bigger than Afghanistan is, and you can't patrol all of it. You know what I mean? So we'll see how. I mean, it also depends on the Ukrainian.
You're thinking there'll always be rebel groups there. Is what you're saying.
Exactly, like it almost indefinitely. Even if they're not, as powerful as, let's say, the Taliban is, you're still going to have assassinations. You're still going to have bombings and stuff like that. So it's like, how much money do they want to put into keeping this place occupied?
Yeah. And here's the key difference too with Finland and Sweden, okay? So Russia goes into Belarus, Russia goes into Crimea, Russia goes into Ukraine, and there's a significant amount of the population, let's say 40 or a little bit less, that are like, yeah, Daddy Putin, come free us, right? Yeah, which is fucked. It's true. So when you get to Finland and Sweden, that ain't their sentiment. 100% of Swedes, 100% of Finns are like, no, fuck you, Putin. So this is where the line has to be drawn.
They have no shared culture, right? Like, at all.
Well, that's it, right? And so it's a straight up, I mean, these are all invasions, but it's harder in Ukraine, it's harder in these places where there is a significant amount of the population that's pro-Russian. So I really hope
that's
Finland
why
and
I
Sweden
don't think
join
it's going
NATO.
to be Finland and Sweden next. Like I see, maybe Belarus, maybe not.
Belarus he's not. I realize now he's not going to invade Belarus. There's so much positive Russian sentiment there.
Yeah, like I mean, he already got
president
to invade
is his
through
puppet.
Belarus. Yeah, exactly right.
Well, that's it. So they're not going to invade Belarus because he'll be like, see. Like, his thing will be like, see, I'm not invading every country.
Yeah, like I treat my friends well or something like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But, like, I see Kazakhstan coming next, you've got Estonia, Latvia, there's a lot of former...
I don't know about those countries, though. I don't know what the sentiment... See, that's the thing. I don't know enough about Estonia and Lithuania to know what their Russian sentiment is, but they definitely, without the support of NATO, they'll collapse like a house of cards. I mean, Estonia's
they're tiny,
a small ass nation. They're small nations.
But you've also got places like in the Caucasus, like you got Armenia, Georgia, Azerbaijan. Kazakhstan's a big one. Like Kazakhstan basically is entirely cut off from Europe by Russia, right? Like they're entirely surrounded except for by China.
So the president of Mongolia released a map, and because Putin's been saying, right, like we're like kind of like he wouldn't use these words, but we're getting the gang back together, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Based on like we have shared cultural heritage, yada yada yada. So the president of Mongolia releases things like, tell you what, here's historically Russian, and here's historically Mongolian, and then it shows like the Mongolian Empire, and he's like, tell you what. You give us this, and we'll give you what part of Mongolia what used to be Russia. And I was like, good troll. Good troll.
Yeah, that'd be real bad if the Mongolians started taking parts of their old empire back.
They don't have the military might.
Oh God, no. Never
I think they're very like. I know there's a lot of distinct cultures in the world. I'm getting off tangent here. Mongolia has like. Very like it's interesting where they're placed, and they're kind of in between Russia, the Middle East, and Asia, and they've got a really distinct culture because of that. Like, and what I mean by that is it's not. It probably is influenced by all three of those, but it's distinct in its own way too. Like when George Lucas did Star Wars, he took a lot of his inspiration for some of the more crazy dress that like Queen Amidala had from Mongolian royalty and that kind of thing. Like it's really, really, really distinct and interesting.
Well, if you think about back in the day, like the Khan of Mongolia ruled the world. I think it was the largest empire by land in existence. Maybe second to the Roman Empire. I'm not sure, but it was massive. The area that they controlled and the amount of cultures that they like had. Suzerainty over.
So back to Russia and back to what's going to happen. So that all of what we've said so far is really just a preface of where are we? Oh, another one I wanted to bring in. So a couple days ago, now things are evolving very quickly, and I haven't seen what his most recent statements are. But Donald Trump was calling Putin a genius for saying that, oh, well, he's just going to invade the West and then he'll stop. And he's like, that's genius, because you're like, Trump was trying to say it as like that's their cultural area, and he's going to stop where their cultural area ends. Yeah. But no, what Trump's really saying, read between the lines, is, oh, that's a genius military tactic.
Yeah. He thinks, oh, why didn't I do that? You know what I mean? Like,
so if I'm Joe Biden, or if I'm the next person that's going to run against Trump, because it's going to be Trump in 4 years, my campaign slogan is, do you want a president that loves Russia or loves America?
Yeah.
That's my tagline. That's my take. Make it. I mean, I know this is terrible to say, but make it un-American, because he is. He's being quintessentially un-American by saying, yeah, they're not in NATO, but they were a NATO ally. Like, yeah, take them over. That's great. Dude, like, such a smart guy. Like, are you fucked? Like,
well, because he was saying that about Mexico, right? Like, he probably wants to take, like, areas that they used to have control over.
Yeah, and Mexico's like, fuck you, bro.
Yeah.
I think if the U.S. ever tried to invade Mexico, it would unite the country, and they would get more than they bargained for.
They would certainly get more than they bargained for.
Because the cartels are well armed, and and when I say well armed, I mean like military vehicles too. Like they're some of the most well armed
as the Mexican military, right?
So that's what I'm saying. Like, if they united under one head, the United States will get more than they bargained for. I can tell you right now.
Oh, for sure.
If they're going to invade anywhere, they invade Canada. And to be honest with you, and then I'm getting off on a tangent here, but they wouldn't go through Ontario this time, because they know they'd face too much fight. They'd come up through Alberta, seize that area, and then go from there.
Realistically, why would you even want Ontario? Like, if you seized all the oil fields in Alberta, you're set, right?
Well, exactly. And then it's a Crimea situation, because 40% of the people there now think Trudeau's a tyrant.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, fuck me, Daddy Trump. So, like, literally, like 40% of Alberta would be like, yeah, let's join the United States.
Yeah,
like,
I can see it.
It'd be fucked.
Yeah, the world's getting real fucked.
But, I can see if Trump becomes president, I could see that, especially if he absolved term limits, I could see that happening.
Yeah. Well, he certainly seemed like he enjoyed the idea of Putin doing it anyway.
Yeah.
We'll have to see, like,
rubbing his nips watching Fox News.
Yeah, really. But, like, what's going to happen? So
where are we going to go? So what's the what if? So take it away, Zach.
Surrenders. What's the next move after that? Like, is it? Do you think he occupies?
Well, I don't think Ukraine will surrender. I don't think Ukraine will surrender.
Probably not.
Well, and that could be another what if. That could be. Are they going to surrender? Do you think before they get Russia
fully,
or are they going to fight to their dying breath? I think. I don't know, because I think Ukraine, the first time Russia came in, and again, they used the same guys. It was an anti-NATO, whatever, yada. And they're trying to show how easily they can invade. I think that those 6 years have eroded the pro-Russian sentiment in Ukraine.
And a lot of it, for sure.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. Like, I wonder what amount of Ukrainians support the Russian invasion. And I mean, at that point, we're getting pretty close to their own people putting a bullet in the back of their head, because they can't afford to have that kind of sentiment.
You can't have that shit behind your lines. But also, how are you going to continue? If you live in Kiev and you're pro-Russian, and then a cruise missile hits your apartment building, like, are you still going to be fucking pro-Russian? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like, how far down, like, the Ukrainian Fox News hole do you have to go to believe these people have shelled my house? It's still the fault of the leftists in my country, right? Like, exactly. Like, at what point do you realize I've been duped?
And that's what's going on, right? Like, I mean, obviously these missiles are targeted, but I've seen apartment buildings that are in shambles already, right? So it's clearly not like they're only hitting military targets. So, like, shit's going down.
Yeah. And again, I don't mean to get off on this tangent again, but that Trump supporters in the U.S. really have to look at what Trump's saying right now and seriously evaluate, like Russia wants to annihilate you. Like, you should not be putting a president into power. And honestly, if I'm a Republican running against him, do you know what I suspect is going to happen? He's really gone after all the traditional opponents inside the GOP. I think he's going to have a young, well-spoken American center right.
Yeah.
Young, young guy come up against him, and I think we'll see what happens, because I think the center of the Republican Party is going to rally out around someone else.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like, while he may have some popular support, like I think his support within the Republican Party is probably not as good as it was.
I don't know.
Like, because he was pretty heavy-handed, right? Like with people that were disagreeing with him.
Well, and he said some pretty shitty things about who's the last guy that ran for the Republicans? No, not the last guy. Not Mitt Romney. John McCain. He said some pretty shitty things about John McCain. He's like literally a fucking American hero. So
yeah, he's just like, I like my heroes who didn't get captured. Like, come on, man.
And I like my presidents that actually served.
Yeah, yeah, no shit, right?
And didn't draft dodge. That's daddy big bucks.
So how do you feel about what do you think about just grabbing a gun like the Ukrainian government's offering its people?
I mean, that's their only choice.
Yeah.
That's your only choice. Like, either way, you're facing the butt of a gun.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and once the Russians come in, like, they may promise you, even in the beginning, like, you can keep your farm or whatever, but if a Russian person wants to move in there, or if they're just, like, I see them occupying this place, and then, groups of off-duty soldiers going around and terrorizing local residents. Mm-hmm. That's what I see happening once the occupation's over. And they know that kind of shit. Like, I just think they know now that one way or another, they don't want to be occupied by Russia because it's going to be a bad time.
Yeah.
And it's worth dying for.
Yeah.
And if I was a farmer, I know that I'm probably going to die. And you have to come to a point where you accept that. Mm-hmm. But what you do is you need to kill 3 Russians.
Yeah,
that's your goal.
Exactly. Take more seriously. Than what goes out, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I would be surveying my land, setting up encampments, I'd be Ramboing it. Yeah. I'd be Rambo Home Aloneing it. Like, setting up traps, traps, dig trenches, and then cover them up.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, do whatever you can to stop Russian advancement. Mm-hmm. And then pick a really good sniper spot for yourself, because we gave them scopes and they've got rifles, and just do your best to pick off as many as you can from cover until they figure out where you are, and then either try and get away and recoup, or you get killed. But at least if you take down 3, 5, 10 Russians, it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Like, that's the mindset they have to be in at this point.
If they want to win, right? You need to. Russia's.
Well, they're not going to win. They're not going to win. But what they need to do, and this is shitty because we're literally using them as our first wave, is they need to do enough damage that it weakens their army enough in internal Russia that they can't be perceived to be too weak, or it's, look at how the excuses Putin's coming up with. The Americans could easily come up with an excuse of, oh, he's a threat, yada, 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 and then bomb Moscow. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and if he doesn't have the military might to respond, you see what I'm saying? So, and then also, there's been another uprising of anti-Putin sentiment in Russia. So at some point, he may have to use the army to crush down that sentiment again. Well, that takes up a significant amount of your forces. So
right now, though, I think it's only about 20% or so of Russian forces are in Ukraine.
Yeah, that makes sense. They have 1 million soldiers. There's 200,000 in Ukraine.
Yeah, so you still got a lot of soldiers at home, right?
No, but I'm saying if you lose 200,000,
yeah, like that's,
or
you
lose,
not a small.
Like let's say they get down to 20,000 soldiers after the Ukraine invasion of that original 200,000. That's a win.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Well, I think that the other thing that we need to think about is like it's not just manpower, because the Russians generally never have. Never run out of that resource, but if we can take out a lot of tanks, if they can take out a lot of helicopters, stuff like that, and we apply these sanctions so they can't get the materials to rebuild that kind of shit, that's, I think, is going to be should be one of the main.
But they are raw resource rich, and so we've seen Ukraine, in the past, right? Where Russia will just this is why they want Ukraine, because it's the first military move. They've got a bunch of raw materials there, right? Mm-hmm. That they can use and keep them going for years. And then we've seen how rapidly in the past Russia can industrialize. So,
for sure.
I mean, we need to be Canada, and I've been saying this before the war. I'm saying it now. I'm going to continue saying it for until I die, my dying breath, this is what I'm going to say. Why the fuck do we not build refineries in Alberta? Why are we shipping our crude product out of country? This is the kick in the ass that Canada needs to fucking realize that we need to be self-sufficient and not relying on fucking China and the United States.
I agree.
Ah!
Like, that's the thing. Like, sanctions can happen at any time. It's not even just sanctions. Like, as soon as resources become scarce enough, like, then what? You know what I mean? Like, they're not.
And then we have no ability to refine.
Yeah.
Get the American steel now, build the refineries, and we have those options. But Justin Trudeau and Harper and all these other ones are too busy kowtowing to these other countries to, like, you know, whatever. Continue selling to them until our refineries are online. That's fine. Then once they're online, charge double. Yep. Like, whatever. And you know what? You could say, oh, there's NAFTA. Well, Trump and Biden and the United States don't seem to fucking care when the ball's in their court. So you know what? Once the ball's in our court, we should be like, fuck you.
Yeah, I agree.
We have all the raw materials. We're the one getting fucked by NAFTA.
Yeah, and it just goes to show you, like, anything. I mean, obviously, it's not like we're going to be invading another country and getting sanctioned, but you need to be able to survive on your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we can, but we've just become so, like, globalization has been bad for Canada.
Yeah, I agree.
And like I said, like, everyone's afraid China's going to jump into this war, because then we'd have to sanction China, and that will be different. Right now, we're like, oh, they're pulling Russian vodka off the shelves. How many Russian products do we buy? If they put the same sanctions on China, you watch the conservative right in our country, small business owners, large business owners, especially large business owners, multinationals and stuff, fucking lose their shit.
Oh, yeah.
Because they know that, like, they'll have, like, there's so many things that I can look at this table. I have my laptop, I have a mic, I have a headset, I have my cell phone. I guarantee you every fucking thing I'm looking at right now was made in China.
At least some part of it, right?
Yeah. And it's like, we got to get off our Chinese addiction.
Honestly,
I have nothing against the people of China. But
it's true.
Yeah.
That is, I think, one of the major threats for the West going forward.
Our sovereignty
is our economic sovereignty. Like, it literally is, like, you know, we cannot exist without Chinese products. Like, it's kind of crazy, actually.
And then the way we've set it up is, like, if a company in China is doing business here and we don't like something that they're doing and we sanction them, they can sue us in Chinese court, and that hearing is binding. That is fucked. And Harper signed that deal, not Trudeau. So I love it when Aaron O'Toole in the last election was like, we got to get tough on China. Get tough on China. Harper was over here blowing them for 8 years.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, but it's also
they're both bad,
right? Because, like, shit's expensive now. Like, you just wait until we stop taking Chinese products. How much?
So do we wait until we're forced to cut off China, or do we do something about it now?
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just going to have backlash. You know what I mean?
It's the political. It's the short-term political losses that people don't want to take. That's what it is. No one's willing to do it because they know that it'd be political suicide. And this is the problem with our current electoral system, to be honest. Like, yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, anyways. I don't want, we can save that for something else, but yeah, like, there's a lot of countries' hands are tied in a lot of ways, unfortunately, in the way the world works right now. So, and honestly, like, this kind of stuff it's not unprecedented, you know? If you literally look at pre-World War II, like, what's going on right now is pretty much almost exactly mirrors what happened before.
Yeah, and now Putin's threatening the next countries that he plans to invade. Like, the line needs to be drawn. Yeah. Like, we're at that point. And if he's going to continue to threaten nuclear war, we'll threaten him right back, and we've got NORAD defense. Might not be 100%, but you know what? It's a good fucking shot.
Well, that's the thing, too, is, like, he is playing with fire, because, yeah, he's got a lot of nukes, but NATO has more nukes, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, we have, what, 3-4 nuclear-armed countries in NATO? Like, so you know, I don't know. I think again, obviously, it is a bluff. Like, he doesn't want nuclear war. Nobody wants nuclear war. Like, obviously.
A lot of people say it's not a bluff, though, because he doesn't personally care. He personally will not be affected by it. He'll be in a bunker. He'll be in whatever. He'll be fine. Mm-hmm. That's why he doesn't care. Mm-hmm. And this is the same. It's the same Trump sentiment. It's the exact same thing. Like, Trump would be fine pressing the red button too, because he knows I'll be safe no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And that's the problem. Meanwhile, the president of Ukraine and the mayor of Kiev are suiting up in military gear to fight on the front line. Like, that's a fucking hero.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Like, you do have to be willing to put your country first, right? Not your own personal ambitions.
Yeah, and nobody is. Well, that's the problem.
Not in the West, right? The West is full of personal ambitions.
Yeah. Okay, so let's break down the brass tacks of what we think is going to happen over the next 3 months.
Over the next 3 months. Well, I honestly...
Give me your telling. Give me your telling the story, and then I'll give you my telling the story.
Well, I say, to be honest with you, Kiev probably falls in the next week. And once Kiev falls, I think the government kind of falls apart, and we'll see it kind of devolve into...
Well, they've technically moved their capital, eh?
Yeah, they did move their capital. That is true. You are right about that. Which is a smart move, because Kiev's only like a couple hours drive from the Belarus border.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Kiev's going down pretty soon, I think. And like you said, I don't know if we'll see a surrender or not, like an official surrender. But I think it's going to probably be more or less over within a month, 2 months. And then we'll go into an insurgency level kind of fighting, right? And then once that's over, we'll see kind of the effects of the sanctions starting to take place. So we'll see if they're actually effective at all. And then we're gonna have to watch and see if it ends here. Like honestly, I don't think anything else will happen this year in terms of another country.
So do you think Putin takes a break once he takes eastern Ukraine and he leaves western Ukraine, or
do you think he
takes it all?
Realistically, like, what's the point of going in? Like, I mean, I get. He's going in from 3 angles. It's tactically, it's good, I guess. Like you want to take the whole country down, but what is he going to do? Make them surrender and just give him Eastern Ukraine? Like, I don't think so, man. Like, I honestly think he's taking the whole country. And if not,
but I'm wondering if he takes a break, if he takes a pause.
I don't think so. Like, I think he's going to keep going until the country's his. He'll install a new president, and that'll be that. I realistically don't think he's going to like officially absorb the country into Russia.
Well, they did it with Crimea. They did. I think they will. I think they'll absorb it as I don't know. I get what you're saying.
Because it's almost more publicly acceptable to just like put in a new president.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I don't know because I don't know. I feel like Putin's unhinged,
Well, like 2 weeks ago, we were still debating if this would even happen or not, right? Like,
yeah.
So, who knows what he's going to do? But like I said, I don't. After the Ukraine situation is said and done, I don't think anything else is happening this year. I think he'll take a break for a little while and kind of just see, test the world temperature and see what he can do next. But because if you look at the way Hitler did it, he gave it a bit of time between each one, you know what I mean? And
but if I'm Finland and Sweden, I'm fucking joining NATO if they let me.
Well, realistically, Finland should be scared because it's not like they haven't been invaded by Russia before, right? Like Russia has invaded Finland prior to World War II as well, so they have experience.
Notice how no one ever is like. Notice how he wasn't like Finland, Sweden, and Switzerland.
Well, Switzerland's way far south of them. Switzerland's in the middle of friggin' Europe, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No one's ever taken Switzerland, and they'll be the last country to fall.
That's not true.
I think mandatory military service. Apparently, they have multitudes of air bases that are built right into the side of the mountains.
Oh yeah.
It'll be like taking Europe, Afghanistan. They will. I would never want to invade Switzerland. That's all I'm saying.
I can see that. They got a long way to go before they get to Switzerland, though. They got a couple countries to go through. But yeah, Finland I could see being the next one, or one of the more eastern countries. But he's also been kind of building up a base of supporters in the Middle East as well, right? So like he's got some he basically propped up Bashar al-Assad. Like that's more or less a puppet government now. You know what I mean? In Syria, and I'm pretty sure they support.
Aren't they a monarchy
as well? Syria? No, Syria is actually was very much a secular state,
and
because they are.
I'm thinking Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia is the kingdom. Yeah, but the Saudi Arabia is actually more American backed than anything, not Russian backed.
Yeah,
But Iran is Russian backed.
Well, this is the thing. Putin has ambitions, but money rules the world. China's been abstaining from being involved.
Yeah.
Well, did you hear about the? This is something else we haven't talked about. The United Nations. I can't remember who did it. It was the states, but the Security Council put forward a motion to condemn Russian aggression, and Russia vetoed it.
See, that's hilarious. Like,
right? That just shows how useless the United Nations is.
Yeah, like the Security Council is completely useless. You can't have.
Well,
I mean, it's not.
And that's the thing. Is the next move to boot Russia off the Security Council, and then that's like. Then they don't want to do that because that gives Putin more fuel to say, "Look at, see,
Mm-hmm.
yeah."
But the problem with that though, like I think they should remove the veto is what they should do. Remove veto power.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but
leave it to a vote. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that overrides sovereignty. Then you can't have that. That's the reason why they have the veto. Because Russia has the right to be the king of their own domain, and America has the right to be the king of it. I get what you're saying, but if you take that out, then it changes everything. Because then you like it's hard. It's a hard thing.
You can start to impose like actual restrictions on countries again, but that's the whole point. You know what I mean? Like realistically, the Security Council can impose all kinds of restrictions.
But if you can
lower countries, and they can't do shit about it.
But Russia would be like, "Fuck you, NATO has no authority." Then, like they would, or not NATO. They would say that they would just say that the UN is a Western-backed, blah 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 blah. Like it's not a legit. Like this is the problem. We were trying to prevent what's happening from happening by having the UN. Mm-hmm. But the strength of the UN in some ways is that it doesn't really have any teeth, but has some teeth, little teeth. You know, like we
talked about this a little bit before in in one of our prior episodes about how when the League of Nations failed, right? Because it had zero teeth. But we're seeing the same thing now, man. Like the League of Nations stopped because of exactly what Hitler was doing. So the United Nations.
But there's too many bureaucrats that have jobs because of it, and so the United Nations will never fold.
No, I don't think.
Like you know what I mean?
No,
like
I agree
we'll just see how completely inefficient it is.
Exactly, it'll be extremely ineffective, and I could see Russia leaving.
Ineffective,
well, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure.
But then they might come up with their own, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna,
and then other nations will follow suit.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's gonna be that's dangerous, and you almost want to keep them in just to keep an eye on them. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why they let them veto it. That's why they're letting them veto it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so it's a really hard thing. So I think next couple of months, I pretty much agree with your storyline. If NATO allows Finland and Sweden to join, they will join. Mm-hmm. And there's not a goddamn thing Putin can do about it. And if he tries, then that's war.
I probably agree.
That's it. Yeah. So I think he takes Kiev. I think he takes Eastern Ukraine. I think that's when he takes a break. But I still don't think we'll let Ukraine into NATO. It's horrible to say, but I don't think we will.
We would have already if we were going to. It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we need to get Finland and Sweden in.
I'm honestly pretty surprised.
Who are our nuclear members?
So, like United States, obviously, France, England.
Does Britain?
I believe France. I think it's just the three: France, England, and United States.
Yeah.
Because then there's also
I don't think Russia, we have any China, nukes. We decommissioned our nukes.
Yeah, we never had any.
We built them, invented them. But
we definitely manufactured the plutonium and stuff like that for sure. But I know India is a nuclear armed nation. Obviously, I don't think they're part of NATO.
Did Iran ever get nuclear weapons?
It's speculated
or no?
That they might have developed them, but honestly, whenever they get a reactor going online, Israel just fucking bombs it into the dust. So they're having a hard time with that. Israel is supposedly a nuclear armed nation.
I believe that. So you know what I believe happens in this war? What? You know what I believe happens? When shit really starts to go down, they just massacre the Palestinians. They'll use it as an excuse to just finish the job. As terrible as that sounds to say, but they'll be like, we need to have our borders secure, and we can't continue to have this threat, yada, 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 yada. and the West won't do anything about it because we'll want to have Israel as an ally.
Yeah,
I can tell you right now that is what's going to happen. If the whole world goes to shit, Israel's going to secure their borders and force people out.
I could see it, but again, you are right. If shit hits the fan, you probably want Israel on our side because they're
that's exactly it.
They've got a pretty good military, so
that's exactly it. So we'll see what happens, but that will, and that's the thing. Like, if shit hits the fan, they'll just say like, "Well, we can't risk the Palestinians getting armed from Russia." Basically,
which honestly is a legitimate threat. Like, wouldn't surprise me.
And so that's what they're
deals with Hamas.
And I also think Netanyahu. I don't know if there's term limits. Well, there probably isn't because he's been in forever. I think Netanyahu will become very popular again.
I don't even know if he's still the president.
No. Anyways, it'll be a hard right. Israel first.
Yeah. It's
yeah.
Like a war. What do you call those? Hawks, right?
Yeah.
War hawks.
Yeah. Also, okay. So just finishing. So I think Putin waits, and then I don't know what his next move is. I mean, I don't think he'll invade Belarus because same thing. Like we said, like look, we treat our friends well. Yeah. Blah 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 blah.
He's basically with them already. Like there's Belarusian tanks in fucking Ukraine now. So
yeah. So that's what I think happens. What I'm also unsure of is how far the West lets it go. Like, if they take Ukraine, fine. But it's like, that's the moment. Like,
I also don't know if they would stand for a brutal occupation either, you know what I mean? Like, if they're fucking executing people in the streets, I don't know if it'll ever come to that kind of shit, but, like, you know what I mean? I don't, because
they won't do it in the streets. They'll be secret police.
I get that, but video and evidence comes out regardless.
Well, and this is the world has changed. The internet has changed the world, right? And so this is the thing, like, there's so much we're aware of that we wouldn't have otherwise been aware of. Yeah. And it's also really funny, speaking about the internet, yesterday I saw a post from a Ukrainian news site that was had the picture of the mayor of Kiev, the heavyweight champion guy, holding a light machine gun in whatever. And Facebook had a thing underneath, this fact check, this might not be true. Guess where the fact check went?
Where?
To a Russian website.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if Facebook's been hacked, or their algorithm sucks, or what they've done, or if they're just trying to stay neutral, which is fucking horrible.
Yeah.
But I have a screen cap of it, and we can share that when we release, however we release this. That can be the thumbnail.
That's interesting.
But I have an actual thumbnail of that picture, and then pull it up, and it goes to a Russian Facebook page. Like how that might not be true when every news source has been reporting, like every news source, like CNN to Fox, that's what he had done. Vitaly had done. He joined the army and he's been suiting up, and like that's a fact. And Russia trying to disseminate information. Like, how much did they pay Facebook for that? Or did they just hack it?
Like, I was gonna say, like, realistically, in one area where Russia's probably like maybe number one in the world is cyber warfare, right? Because like they've been really practicing, you know what I mean? Like they fucking do crazy shit.
Again,
and maybe the United States does too, and we don't know about it, you know what I mean?
Well, there's that, and also I think one nation we constantly underestimate is Japan. And so I feel like Russia's a powerhouse and they're using it right now. But again, if Japan wanted to use their technological might for a world war, they need to be on our side because otherwise we're fucked.
Yeah.
And China doesn't fuck with Japan, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, like their manufacturing is pretty insane as well for such a. I mean, they're not a small country, but you know what I mean. Like they are pretty insane manufacturing for sure. And that's the thing is like we haven't seen anything like that happened in the 40s where we go full fucking war economy. You know what I mean? Like, could you imagine if we did that again? Like, we could be churning out tanks fucking left, right, and center. You know. So
well, and even in the U.S., we're like, oh, the U.S. spends so much on military, and they do. But it still only amounts to 3 or 4% of their annual spending. Yeah. So imagine if that went back up to 80 or 90%.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, I don't know. I think again, it's still early to start panicking or anything like that.
But I think it'd be interesting for us to look back and our listeners to listen back on this and say, okay, this is So today's what? February 26th, 2022?
Yep.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to look back and see what comes of this. And I think we should probably wrap this up.
Yep.
And thanks everybody for listening. We hope that I think I don't know if I speak for both of us, but we both support a free and independent Ukraine.
Yep. Yeah, we can't let this slide. You know, things need to not repeat themselves as they so often do.
Yeah, and so we stand with the people of Ukraine, and hope that they give the Russians what's what in Kiev.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, that's What If History, past, present, and future. Again, more present and future. But thanks for listening this week, and we'll be back very soon with our final episode of the season.
Thanks for listening, guys. Take care, everyone.